Hi guys, I'm Boaz from Boaz Media International School and College. Today I want us to talk something briefly about algebra. I know many students always, anytime they hear the word algebra, and today we are going to spend a very short time to look into some of the basics. Now when we talk about algebra is simply the study of the variables, and I can write here variables. Algebra is simply the study of variables and the rules for manipulating it. A good example here, somebody can just come and write, and I want to write, if I give you PQ or PQX, you see the most important thing that any student should understand is the meaning of whatever they have. Like here is simply an expression. As a year 7, in fact the group I want to talk to today is basically the key stage 3. That is the year 7, the year 8, and the year 9 just before they sit their checkpoint. So when you see a variable, an expression written like this, what it simply means, it implies P times Q times X. That's how we understand what algebra basically is. So this is simply a product. You'll find a case, maybe somebody comes and asks you 2p squared maybe y. You see, it simply means the product, where the number part we normally call the coefficient. The number part we call it the coefficient. Then any part we have for the letters, we call them the variates or the variables, because they keep on varying. Somebody may ask you the meaning of this 2p squared y. It simply means, 2 times p times y. Today I want to go to the very basics, not really solving any complex problem, but to take my students what we simply mean by this. We find in many cases a teacher asking a student, especially in the year 7, year 8, even year 9, that what is p squared? What should be the answer? You find the student saying is 2 times p, and this is very wrong. P squared simply means we take p, we multiply by p. Are we together? For example, if I give you p cubed maybe t squared, what it simply means, you simply take p times p times p times t. I'm walking you through some of the basics of algebra that any student should understand. You find even in a small case, you ask a student, what is x cubed? You find some of the student tells you that x cubed is x times 3. That is very wrong from the experience I have with most of my students across. So the meaning of p cubed means you take x, you multiply by x, you multiply by x. An example, I was asking one of my students in class some 2 weeks ago that what is p squared? Then the student was telling me 2 times p. Then I asked the student again, what is 2 squared? Then the student told me the answer is 4. Then I asked them, how did you get 4? They said 4 is simply means 2 times 2. So when we deal with the numbers and when we deal with the letters, it simply means the same thing. Allow me to wrap this part to elaborate more. Now, so what I want most of you to understand today is understanding what mathematics is. Because when you understand the basics, you will know how to go about it. You find a situation like here, I have some problem here on the board that says that p is equal to 3n and n equal to 6. And today I'm walking you through the very basics of what algebra is all about. For example, if they give you p is 3n and n is 6, you ask somebody in year 7, year 8 and year 9, they do what? It's so difficult. How do I find p? But it's very simple. First of all, they have to interpret this. And knowing the essence that whenever you have an equal sign, we call it an equation. This is simply an equation. So having the p equals to 3n simply means p is 3 times n. So we simply replace the value of the n that is there. Like here we have been given 6. So we say 3 times 6 providing 18. And today I wanted to talk basically about the introduction of this to students taking algebra, because I know many a time somebody mentioned, today we are going to learn algebra. They say, no, it's hard. There's nothing hard. It is something very, very simple. It's just playing with the letters and the rules that help you to manipulate it. A good example here, there's another question I have here. You find a student being asked, we have f is equal to 3t squared minus x, y, m. Then somebody tells you that in this case, your t is 3, given x maybe 4, y is 1, and m may be 2. So this is just a replacement. I'm talking to somebody now in year 7, year 8, and year 9. These are simply the basics. So first of all, you have to understand what do we mean by that f. You come and say your f as a variable should be equal to 3 times t times t. You have to work this part independently. Remember, one of the things in mathematics is work organization. Then you minus the product of these three, which is x times y times m. And remember, my t was given to be 3. So 3, I multiply by 3, and I multiply by the other what? The other 3. So here provides 27. Then we are to minus when we get the product of these 3, which is x, which we had to be 4. You multiply by y, which is 1. You multiply by the value of m, which is supposed to be 2. So when you get here, you simply subtract it from whatever you get in the previous. Now, there is another thing that has really given students very, very difficult times whenever they're handling algebra, because remember, one of the operations that is ever taught, and I think this is a concept that cannot change all the way to your university. A good example is how you place with the positive and the negative. I know some of the students have been taught minus, minus, plus. So how do we operate about that? And I want to give a very good example. They have been taught that my plus is always a plus. That's a basic. They have been taught minus is a plus. So in any case you have signs of the same type, it always becomes to be a positive. Then you have a case where if I have the plus, minus, the answer should be a minus. When you have a minus and a plus, it should be a minus. So I want you to take this one home. That different signs will always give you a negative. Same signs will always give you a positive. The problem only comes in this case. I know I'll come and ask us, what is 4 minus plus 3? Remember, you cannot operate with the two operation signs. Whether you use a number line or any other procedure, you have to summarize and say, when two signs appear, like minus and the plus, what are you supposed to be having? You'll have the minus. So it will be 4 minus 3. The answer is supposed to be what? To be a 1. What if a student now is taught, what is minus 4 plus 3? You see, this is where the challenge begins. A student will start coming and saying, the teacher said, minus plus is always a minus. Then they end up either writing this to be a negative 7 or a positive that, which is not right. Now let me give you the hint. Anytime you have them where there is a number in between, remember the positive and the negative is not like in our previous case. The 4 now separates these two. And that's just the basics I'm teaching to a year 7 student. So do this. Go back to your board maths. You know what I teach my students? When you are in a mess or the storm is there, you go back to basics. Like somebody who is in the airline, in the aircraft, in air. If the aircraft develops a problem, you don't start fixing the problems. You go back to basics. Now, somebody will even wonder, why would I write the board maths? Here, I'm just dealing with a simple question. You have to go back. Because board maths simply tells you the addition comes first. Before what? Subtraction. So you come here and say, which one comes first? The positive. And the sign behind a number is what dictates its nature. This negative tells me 4 is a negative. This positive tells me that the 3 is a positive. So you can come and start with a positive. I start with 3, which is a plus. Then I go to 4, which is a minus. Then, as I've always taught many students, whenever you take a smaller number minus a bigger number, you must get a negative. So here becomes 3 take away 4 is minus 1. That's why I've always discouraged most of my students, especially the ones going to do checkpoint in year 6. Remember, there's checkpoint in year 9, then after that IGCSE in year 11, then advanced subsidiary year 12, then finally year 13 A levels, which now makes your high school to be complete. You need to know these basics. Because I know even if you ask a student, now let us look at this simple one. Somebody come and put negative 40 plus 13. How am I supposed to go about it? You find a student telling you negative 53, positive what? No, you don't need to mess up yourself. You go back to basics. Like you know very well, the board must clearly tells, start with a positive. Why don't you just reorganize this and start with the positive 13, and then you have the last part here, the negative 40. Then what did I say? What did I say? Whenever you take a smaller number minus a bigger number, you must always get a negative value. So in your mind, just say 13 minus 40, you just take 40 minus 13, which is 27. So the answer becomes negative 27. Why am I taking about all this? Because this is going to apply to the algebraic expressions. You have to go back to these basics so that they make some sense. Okay, another one, somebody may come and ask you, allow me to wrap this part, because this is the major problem with many students. Even if they're good in maths, they end up messing up in some simple basics. Like somebody just come and giving you, what is negative 10 plus minus 4 minus 3 minus 20? A student sees this problem and start wondering, hey, what the hell? What is this problem all about? It's very simple. What you're supposed to do, write board mass. What do I mean? All the students watching across, from my country in Kenya, the schools I teach, abroad, elsewhere. I'm now sharing these across the whole world, okay? To the students taking maths, both the IGCSE, the International Baccalaureate, and any other system that you're taking, you need to go back to basics. What are you supposed to do? Ensure that there's only one operation sign. There's no way you can start working. Remember, here there are 2. Here there are 2. 1 and 1. So see how the basics are very simple. One thing you have been taught, when the 2 different signs appear, it must be a negative. So we are going to start here. We have our negative 10. Then we have this plus minus is minus 4 plus minus is, no, this was negative becoming a plus 3. Then last we have a negative 20. Now when you check this case, now each one of them is one operation signs. The last step that you need to take, now which one comes first? Is it a positive or a negative? It is a positive. Now collect all the positives together. Like in this case, only 3 is a positive. National Baccalaureate and any other system that you're taking, you need to go back to basics. What are you supposed to do? Ensure that there's only one operation sign. There's no way you can start working. Remember, here there are 2. Here there are 2. 1 and 1. So see how the basics are very simple. One thing you have been taught, when the 2 different signs appear, it must be a negative. So we are going to start here. We have our negative 10. Then we have this plus minus is minus 4 plus minus is, no, this was negative becoming a plus 3. Then last we have a negative 20. Now when you check this case, now each one of them is one operation signs. The last step that you need to take, now which one comes first? Is it a positive or a negative? It is a positive. Now collect all the positives together. Like in this case, only 3 is a positive. So I have to begin with a 3. Everything else can come this side. So minus 10, minus 4, and minus 20. Now, this is another case that many students have had a lot of nightmares when you give them this. Remember, minus a number is minus sum of the numbers. Like this one is like, I take 10 people outside, I take another 4 people outside, I take another 20 people outside. How many people do we have in total outside? It's the 10 plus 4 plus 20. So we have 34 people outside. So we just write minus 34. Means negative means they're outside. But remember this side we had 3. So it is now 3 minus 34. Don't come and tell me, you know, my teacher said minus is plus. No. Here the negatives are separated by a number in between each. So it is minus a number, minus the other number is minus some of the numbers, And what did I say lastly? Whenever you take a small number minus a big number, you get a negative. So here becomes negative 31. So that's how we operate. Number one, you must go back to basics, which means you have to have your board mass. You have to reorganize your numbers so you follow what board mass says. But before you go into all that procedure, you must know whenever the two signs operate, which one comes first. And I'm really helping you guys. Some would wonder, why did I start teaching these simple basics? I even have the same problem with my students doing, I teach mathematics and physics up to year 13, the A levels. And even the one I teach in year 13, even whether it is physics or maths, it is a recycle. You may have a very big equation, you've interpreted, you've done your workings, then it reaches a point just minus plus. Then you find students are doing so poorly in that. Case number two, student leave processes. This is the point why many students fail. If we go through the Cambridge reports, who have done the IGCSE and the A levels and the year 12, they leave the process, the methods. Students ignore so many. They want to jump to the answer. But remember, in life, you have to follow the steps. Let me look into a simple example here to indicate why did I just bring that idea of the negatives and positive. I have some problems here. Add them on the board. Now somebody comes and tells, for example, 4 into A, negative A minus 3. Then for somebody tells you equals to 22. Then they said, find the value of A. You know, today what I'm basically doing, I'm not in any way helping you know how to get the answers, but I'm guiding you guys on what the procedure you should take. Remember, we have the algebra here. The letter is the algebraic part. The number part we also have. So we have to go back to basics. What were you taught? Whenever you have any number outside the bracket, it is called distributive property. It must multiply each and every number inside. So we just start on a very simple basic. 4 times minus A, we get minus 4A. Then 4 times minus 3. Remember, positive value times a negative, you get negative 12. Then here comes, we have the 22. Then we do the collecting of the like terms. Remember, here we have the negative 4A. But when you have this my equal sign, whenever you have a negative, we do what is called the additive inverse. You have to add 12 on both sides. You have to add 12. So when you add this 12, it cancels. So here we get 12 plus 22, we get 32. I know many students always tells me, you know, the teacher said when we have the negative here, when it crosses equal sign, it becomes a positive. That's nothing like that. It doesn't cross and turns. We just do what is called the additive inverse. If it is a positive, you minus it both sides. So in this case, what am I supposed to do? Remember, A is a variable, as I said it earlier. The negative 4 is a coefficient. So you have to divide both sides by negative 4 and negative 4. The negative 4 will go, your A becomes, 4 goes here once, it goes here 8. So your answer becoming negative 8 in that particular equation. So what have you noted? You follow the steps and you have to show the processes. What under the Cambridge we consider as the methods. In life, there is no shortcut. You have to show each and every given method. Let me do for you the last example. Today it was just a very brief lesson, and most specifically on those who are in Key Stage 3. I go through most of your scripts and I realized that there's a problem with what we call basics. We have the problem with the basics. And that's what we teach. Even some of us who teach the year 12, the year 13 maths and physics, we go back to basics. So there's no way you say this and this and that we cannot learn. Guys, whether you are in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, I know some of you are now online watching across the globe. You must just go back to the basics. And maths does not change. There's no concept in maths that's not taught elsewhere. I have students here in Kenya. I have some in German. I have in Beijing in China. I have in the United States. I have some in South Africa. I have so many. And even if I were to print those mathematics papers and show you, the basics of mathematics does not change. So let me give you one more, guys, that you are going to try by yourself. So the last one I'm giving here is 7y. I'm not going to do it, I'm leaving you to go and test it. Plus 18 equals 2y plus 28. Now we will pick here from tomorrow so that we check if you really got the answers. So you can subscribe to our channel, you can like our videos, you can share, and most importantly we invite you to Boaz Media International School and College, which we are is a school. We register you for the Cambridge exams. We have the e-learning. We do courses like ICT, programming, JavaScript. We do quite a number of stuff. Even music, because we play the piano, we do guitar. We have professionals who takes you through all this. So you guys, welcome to our channel and let's work together. Thank you so much.